Off-brand Power Rangers are fighting each other in a battle between good and evil. The monsters known as the Oni ran rampant, wreaking hellfire and destruction upon the land. Kakeru, a boy, runs to the shrine of the chosen maiden, who is the shining hope in the battle against the Oni. The beautiful shrine maiden reaches for the boy before clasping his hands. Psych. Kakeru wakes up from his weird-ass dream not knowing anything about what happened just now. A bitchless loser couldn't possibly have such a life. Kippy, his fake-ass roommate, trolls his ass by telling him he's got a superpower, allowing him to predict whether or not he'll be late when he wakes up. Kakeru tells his dumbass that everyone is capable of doing just that. Today happens to be their field trip, but Kippy's fake ass wouldn't know anything about athletics and goes to sleep. They finally arrive at the location of the trip. There they spot a wild waifu who can't even navigate a damn GPS on her smartphone. The chick is hopeless, so our boy, Kakeru, rushes to her aid. Kippy the Virgin warns his homie that it's a trap, but Kakeru isn't stopping there. Their class teacher isn't too surprised that Kakeru bailed out on the trip. Observing the picture of decimated land, the students discuss the possibility of a UFO being the cause of the damage. While they're out there acting like the USA's government with its doo-doo alien invasions, Kippy the Virgin drags their asses back to Japan and tells them that it must be the Oni monsters instead. No one takes him seriously as expected, as if anyone would take Gorlock the Destroyer at his word because he looks like he eats a human for breakfast. Returning to the dumb chick waifu and her boy toy for the trip, Kakeru helps her locate the tower she's supposed to be at. He earns the waifu's thanks and hurries to the building because he's not out here simping no more. However, a strange atmosphere engulfs his surroundings. The building looks vacant and spooky. Kakeru doesn't even notice that the Oni are already on his ass. Kakeru navigates his way through the building when the voices echo the schizo accusations are suddenly looking way too freaky. Kakeru stumbles and fumbles as the Delulu demons call him ugly and worthless like me when I look up at a mirror in the morning. The Oni creatures manifest like a scarier version of Venom. Kakeru is about to get his face chopped off his shoulders, but there is nothing to worry about as the Power Rangers arrive to save the day. The Power Rangers fight the monsters while Kakeru is left speechless because he has no idea what is going on right now. Kakeru gets tossed outside and receives his mandatory anti-motivation from Captain Tin Man over here. The dude returns to his group. Having cleared the area of monsters, Uka prepares to lay a seal and stop the Oni from raiding into their dimension. However, her attempts receive a dark turn as Uka is overwhelmed. More of the Oni creatures attack them while Uka is in danger of falling 12 stories down to her death. Yuji Itadori's little brother over here saves his maiden but falls down in her place in the funniest sequence imaginable. Kakeru is about to get eaten by these fuckface monsters when a sentient power suit influences him to allow the Oni to take over his body in exchange for ultimate power. Kakeru is about to get chopped to bits, and his only salvation seems to be a creepy-ass manipulator like Sukuna. Off-brand Power Rangers are struggling to deal with a few more Oni than before. They're on their knees when their serial killer-looking friend arrives and wipes the floor with the monster's face. He beats them with a 5-piece combo and finds sadism in killing the creatures. At this point, the dude is acting more like an Oni than an Oni. Knowing that he might be dangerous, the Power Rangers try to attack him. But this Greninja-looking Batman is just too fast on his feet and kills one of them with a serious punch. The power suit goes out of control and is about to smoke our boy's waifu, but Kakeru can't let that slide and fights his demons. He only tries to convince him of his power and regains control. Luca stands fearless as she prepares to eat a punch. The Oni is impressed because she didn't even flinch. In fact, she's the same woman who had imprisoned him the first time. This dysfunctional Oni wants to execute his revenge arc and keeps yapping like crazy. Luca stands there like a boss bitch and basically tells him to do his worst. The Oni is about to snap her pencil neck when Kakeru kicks in to stop the monster. The Oni is fed up with his constant interference, but Kakeru refuses to stand around helpless and instead wants to acquire this power for himself to help other people. Kakeru's story hints that he is the sole survivor of a significant incident that happened in the past. He wants to help people using his newfound power. My dude manages to power off Metalhead Shadow the Hedgehog here, which is quite hilarious. When Kakeru regains consciousness, he meets the 3 geeks that are in Oka's squad. They even invite him to join them. Kakeru is out here thinking his hero's life is about to begin, like he's Izuku Midoriya or some shit. He quickly gets told on his ass that he's actually tied up and that they're not even superheroes, but instead, they're out here to detain him. My dude gets kidnapped on the spot by the very people he thought were genuine heroes. Now that's rotten luck. Kakeru wakes up with Oka staring at him. She declares that he's human and acts pretty chill with it, but her squad is still suspicious of Kakeru. Kakeru questions the kind of people he's surrounded by and asks about the Oni. Four Eyes Nerd tells him that he's just an outsider who shouldn't interfere with their business. Kakeru denies being an outsider as he knows what happened all those years ago on the day of the disaster. Knowing that these guys fight only for a living, Kakeru is sold and wants in on their job. However, he immediately gets slapped with a rejection. This is because Kakeru made contact with one of the most dangerous Oni, Ebara. Ebara currently possesses a power suit and is responsible for killing his previous user by devouring its soul. This makes Ebara an incredible threat to anyone. Even though he should be shitting his pants, Kakeru thinks that it's big gas he was capable of surviving what the previous user of the suit could not. Ebara uses the power of anim telepathy like he's Sukuna or some shit and tells him to straight up tackle Oka on the ground, all WWE style. This man absolutely despises Oka to the point he's out here feeding instructions to an NPC on how to kidnap the maiden. Kakeru aggressively turns down Ebara, but the others think he's gone haywire in the head. Kakeru reveals that Ebara is secretly communicating with him, blowing the Oni's cover. Luka decides to take serious measures for Ebara, who begs her to stop. Luka turns this dude into a damn bracelet, effectively reducing the risk of his return. Nerdy Four Eyes reminds Kakeru that he's not up in the big leagues with them to come along. They take him to another location, all blindfolded, while wondering if he can still hear Ebara's annoying-ass voice. The boy confirms that he can't. Luka tells him that it's the end of the road for them and that he shouldn't involve himself in any trouble. Kerka returns home all bummed out to Kippy's dumbass, who wonders what made him so depressed. Kakeru tells him that he basically got called trash by a group of people and feels down about it. Kippy tries to cheer him up by reminding him of his worth. As for Oka's team, their next destination is a location that is said to have encountered a freaky turn of events like Drake with a minor level freaky. They show up in the area to see what's going on. Ryo's got to stick up his ass because of their previous fuck-up and advises his team to work strategically. The scene switches to the Power Rangers geared up for battle. One of the monsters has possessed an average, overworked employee. What's funny is that instead of devouring the lady, the Oni tosses her back to the Power Rangers like he's on their side. The Oni is pretty strong and poses some trouble for the group. Green Ranger out here tries to play the superhero by taking the battle on his own. Later, Luka retrieves the woman who was possessed by the Oni and disappears like Batman. Luka realizes that the Oni are growing in number, while Ryo is nowhere to be found because of his solo mission. While the others storm off to look for Ryo, Luka finds it a desperate situation and allows Ebara to communicate with Kakeru. This time, Kakeru is the one playing with the rejections. He goes all crazy because of the voices in his head, weirding out Kippy. Kakeru asks what he should do for the person who basically called him worthless. Kippy gives him the most illogical, disconnected, and trashiest yap-fest motivation of all time, to the point even Kakeru doesn't even follow his words. Kakeru runs off, deciding to save the others. He kisses the ground and remembers Ebara's words. Fighting against the feelings of his own worthlessness that was highlighted by Ryo, Kakeru persists in his motivation to help others. Ebara doesn't want to help Oka unless he can devour a human in return. Luka thinks that it's too far even for her. Kakeru pops up like he used Goku's instant transmission to get here. Even Ebara is bummed out because they have to save Four Eyes' useless nerd of all people. Luka reminds Kakeru of the risks involved in using Ebara. Kakeru thinks it's a risk he's willing to take. While Ryo is standing on his last leg, Kakeru shows up to act like a true hero instead of being rejected by his crybaby jealous ass. Kakeru shows him the bracelet as he's ready to use Ebara's power. Ryo thinks it's far too dangerous of a gamble, but Kakeru is willing to demonstrate his control. Kakeru gives Ebara a choice to make between the red pill and the blue pill. He either gets locked up in a cellar for all of eternity, never to see the light of day again, or he just helps him. Ebara gets swooned by his proposal and cooperates with Kakeru. We get a remarkable suit-up sequence followed by a crazy ass kick. Kakeru maintains complete control of the suit, even altering its appearance thanks to his influence. The battle is yet to be finished. All five of them rush together to slice and dice the Oni. After defeating all of them, Uka prepares to seal the Nether Realm. The barrier sealing is successful as Kakeru returns to the human world. Ryo is impressed and even shares a drink with Kakeru, earning him that big boy status. Ryo accepts Kakeru as part of their team but reminds him that he'll shove a sword up his ass if he fails to control Ebara. Ebara notes that the nerd is trying to hunt for a particular Oni. At the Chukito High School's track meet competition, Kitty is headstrong, aiming for her victory. Haruko cheers her from the stands, supporting her while the only thing occupying Kitty's mind is victory. Then suddenly, a horrifying voice calls her from the other world. What seems like her own insecurity is actually the voice of the Oni, manifesting her fear of failure. Kei's body is taken control of as the bitch goes batshit crazy and pulls up with a crazy vertical. She makes the jump and warps through the ground, surprising everyone at the arena. This is because Kei teleported to another location in order to save a man fallen from a building. She saves him while the newest loser of the group, Kakeru, arrives to help Yellow Ranger out. Luca warns them to stay on guard since she still senses the presence of dangerous Oni nearby. Ibara is itching to fuck up a few of them and especially gets annoyed when he sees Oni with wings because that's how evolution works, I guess. Kakeru and Ibara are out here fighting for petty control over the battle while Keed shoulders the burden herself. The vessel of the Oni is rescued and Keed is also helped by Haruko at the last minute. It is explained that the Oni require the presence of a vessel to invade their world. Thankfully, the Powerpuff Girls and company were able to save the vessel this time, preventing a disaster. However, the Oni who escaped the battlefield is at risk of capturing a new victim in his place. Keed is especially annoyed with Kakeru's enthusiasm, while Haruko thinks that she's blaming herself for the mission. Kat leaves while Haruko follows her. Kakeru wants to pursue them, but Ryo advises him against doing such a thing since Haruko and Keed are pretty close to each other. Luca tells him that they were channeling girl power before Ryo and Kakeru. Kakeru gives Ryo a look of disgust as if to wonder if this scumbag is playing gay to stick around with the hoes. Kakeru tells him that he had a coupon for a pizza and basically throws the gang a pizza party to enjoy. Luca has never tried pizza before and quickly takes a bite to see if it lives up to the hype. Luca falls starstruck by the pizza, as she should because it is the best thing on the planet. At the station, Keed is upset remembering how she completed the jump. She's annoyed that she had to rely on Oni's strength to avoid the discomfort of others. The Oni were about to devour her when Ibara stepped in and praised her for maintaining her control. Keed meets Yoko, her rival, who fails to make the same jump. Yoko learns that Keed actually quit being a jumper after her last jump. She doesn't know and pettily asks if it's because Keid wants to remain undefeated. Keid regrettably hints to Yoko that she cheated and no longer wants to continue the activity. However, Yoko is hellbent like a bitch on jealousy pills and vows to make a higher jump than her at their next track meet. As she leaves, it is revealed that Yoko has been influenced by the power of Oni as well, giving her confidence in her abilities. Haruko sits by herself all depressed at the part because her relationship has fallen apart with her best friend. Kakeru is there to ask her what's wrong, and she reveals that Kei used Oni's power to make the jump the other day. That same day, Kei had made up her mind to quit after feeling like she had betrayed the trust of her allies. Kakeru thinks it's an achievement that he survived an Oni possession, but Haruko humbles him real quick by telling him that they are all actually much more resilient than him when it comes to resisting Oni. Haruko doesn't want to lose her treasured relationship with Kei, but doesn't know what to do. Kakeru distracts her by talking about dodgeball and how amazing his friend Kippy is at dodging. We all know this is a massive cap because that man is an easy target. Kakeru briefly tells Haruko that heroes always fight on behalf of others. The following day, Keed is walking on the bridge. Yoko's words play in her mind, and coincidentally, the crazy-out bitch is actually nearby. Yoko's shadow grows larger and larger as the Oni have begun to taint her with their power. Yoko allows the monster to fully possess her. The first thing this mentally ill chick did was to stand in front of a truck so that she could make an impossible jump. After making the jump, Yoko feels like Kobe Bryant from Walmart because she's out here thinking she's the most outstanding athlete to exist. Cade tries to knock some sense into her, but Yoko doesn't think she's doing anything wrong since Cade did the same to make her jump. Katie tells her that it is bad, but it doesn't work. The Power Rangers, aka Haruko, and the others also arrive at the scene to fight off the Oni. Yoko hammers down on Keed for betraying her allies while Haruko jumps in to support her bestie because girl power. Haruko gets her shit tossed by a flying Oni, forcing Keed to go full speed to her rescue. Somehow, this anime gave her a holiest transformation sequenced as if they got some last-minute budget increase or something. Bumblebee saves her damsel in distress. Kei doesn't feel all that great comparing herself to Ryo and Kakeru, but Haruko pulls up with that fortune cookie motivation and tells her she's good as her own person. Haruko's transformation sequence is even weaker than Keed's, but it can't be helped. The scene cuts to the entire team beating the crap out of the Oni. Haruko literally has a Mega Beam blue laser on her ass. That's crazy. Cade chases after the Oni, who possesses Yoko. Cade is able to defeat the creature and recover Yoko. Luca seals them off and the day is saved once again. In their next track and meet, Yoko uses her own effort to actually win the big gold medal. Time for some important filler. Kakeru is supposed to be a superhero who fights against evil threats from the Oni. However, his biggest problem right now is the person in his room. It's none other than Kippy. Kakeru returns home late again, which Kippy has noticed for a while now. He suspects that Kakeru has gotten himself a girlfriend. Kakeru obviously tries to deny the girlfriend's allegations because he's a maidenless virgin who can never hit. Kippy deploys his next strategy, making Kakeru dance. He notices that Kakeru has danced before, but such a silly question strikes odd to Kakeru, who thinks that everyone and their mama have danced at least once in their lives. Kippy's Fataz couldn't stomach that, and he used 1% of his true powers to question Kakeru's secret admirer, whom he also danced with. Kakeru shuts down the possibility and insists that he doesn't have a girlfriend. Kippy is suspicious of Kakeru's ability to dance. Kakeru explains that he went to a party with his friends. Kip thinks he's dating a chick, but Kakeru vividly remembers crushing monsters on his so-called date. Kippy still thinks it's sus for him to be coming home late. They are playing a game together when Kippy suddenly accuses Kakeru of indirectly kissing a girl. Kakeru is so startled by this sudden accusation that he ends up losing the game because of his inability to focus. Kippy uses 2% of his powers and reveals that he's got a secret ability of his own. He's a lie detector and can easily scan through Kakeru's lies. He tells Kakeru to just admit defeat, but Kakeru gets even more annoyed. Kippy's penetrating eye still remains unconvinced. Kakeru only remembers this one time receiving a supposed love letter from Keed. You would think that she's actually fallen for him. Get ready to be debated like the man himself, as the contents of the letter contain an exercise program that Kakeru is supposed to follow daily without fail. In short, this man didn't get a girlfriend and isn't getting one anytime soon. Kippy switches topics to something else. He points out how Kakeru has been talking to himself lately like the schizo fuck he seems when he talks to Ibaru. Kippy thinks that he's hiding a secret pet from him. After failing to uncover the pet, Kippy shows a recording of Kakeru spotted on the beach with a bunch of chicks. He thinks that this is solid evidence to confirm that he's out here banging a few. Kakeru remembers the day as being different. Luka closely inspected him as usual because she wanted to ensure he remained human. Kakeru expressed a desire to know about the role of the Shrine Maiden, but Oka refused to elaborate and promised to explain it some other day. Kippy asks if Kakeru's new job is dangerous by any means. Kakeru doesn't think of the job as dangerous, remembering Keed's serious words when she told him to man up instead of acting like a martyr in every fight. Kippy gets more and more insistent with Kakeru, who is facing extreme difficulty expressing his emotions because of the complications that would arise from telling Kippy. Kakeru explodes on Kippy, telling him that they're not even brothers by blood. Those words are enough to disillusion anyone and ruin the atmosphere. Kippy and Kakeru mind their own business. Kakeru plays a game and remembers the childhood he shared with Kippy playing video games. Both of them try to reach out to the other but refuse to talk because of what happened. Kakeru recalls that even in his most depressed days, Kippy was there to cheer him up with the talks of being a hero. He basically fostered his passion to become a hero in the first place. Kakeru even remembers the night when he faced nightmares because of the incident. Even in those moments, Kippy tried to distract Kakeru with goofy gestures like the Kamehameha from Dragon Ball Z. When Kakeru found it difficult to stare at the moon, Kippy instead tried to paint a good memory with him instead. Kakeru chose to reveal what happened that night and even talked about the existence of Oni. He was shocked when Kippy fully believed his words without questioning them even once. Kippy told him that heroes believe in others. Both brothers shared the dream of becoming heroes. Kakeru and Kippy recover their bond. Kakeru feels bad because Kippy has always been honest with him, and yet he's keeping something a secret. Kippy acknowledges Kakeru's feelings regarding the matter and even confirms that they're not related by blood but are still family. Kippy has turned out to be a top G with that attitude, proving that he's the real one. Kakeru wants to expose his secret to Kippy, who instead tells him to keep it concealed until the right moment. Kakeru remembers that it is the same approach the Shrine Maiden took with him. Kippy finishes up his noodles. Both of them are expecting a delicious meal, savoring their mouths. However, it turns out to be atrocious in the end. Ibara and Kakeru, alongside Ryo, face off against a bunch of Oni monsters. Ryo styles on them, impressing Kakeru with his amazing sword skill. Ryo's teamwork with Kakeru is exceptional, and he receives praise from others. The crew wonders if they saved the man from becoming a vessel. The gap between the two worlds is in a dangerous position with the appearance of more Oni. Kakeru wants to play the superhero and save the world, but he gets reminded that they're not the Avengers or some shit. Suddenly, Luka receives a text notification on her phone and learns that her sister is en route. Welcoming Oka's sister is a matter taken too seriously as they make sure the rooms are all tidied and clean. Luka thanked them for helping out with welcoming her beloved sister. Kakeru tries to learn about Oka's older sister but only hears bad rumors about her intimidating nature from Keed. Luka explains that while they are sisters, Benyo is also their boss, a revelation that greatly surprises Kakeru, who wasn't expecting a hierarchy of command. Luka also reveals that her sister has an OP squad of her own. Ryo explains that the opposing squad is called the Black Team, A crisis arises in the form of Shiruko biscuits that they're missing, which are Oka's sister's favorite. Both Oka and Ryo treat it as a matter of national importance. Kakeru immediately heads out to the supermarket to grab a bag of Shiruko biscuits. He sees only one bag left and tries to reach for it when a silver-haired hot baddie bumps into him as she also wants the biscuits. They share an awkward stare for a moment. The woman lets him have the biscuits and turns tail without a word. Her assistant tells Kakeru that she's quite fond of the biscuits. Keppe also bumps into a scary-ass tall dude who later turns out to be a really nice guy. The silver-haired baddie is revealed to be Oka's older sister, who dotes on her kin. Binyo, the drama queen, acts like she hasn't seen her sister in years when it's only been 3 days at most. Binyo's 2 bodyguards have also brought Oka a bunch of gifts. Uka introduces her sister to Kakeru, who realizes that this is the same chick from the supermarket. Benio reaches for a happy, innocent handshake and then proceeds to crush the shit out of his fingers as if to get back at him for stealing those precious Shiruko biscuits. Benio introduces her men as Yukon and Isa and explains that she's in need of the white team's assistance in tracking down stronger Onits called the Shinja. These monsters have acquired an intellect, making them difficult to pursue. Isa explains that only the members of the black team are capable of bringing down a Shinja at their current levels. Benio's plan is to use their trash squad as easy targets to hunt for the Shinja. Benio emphasizes that whatever happens, they are not allowed to engage in a fight with the Shinja. Later, Ki shares her annoyance with Benio's bitch-faced girl boss attitude. Ryo and Uka both elaborate on how the black team is way stronger than them and deals with stronger threats. Kakeru doesn't understand what makes a Shinja so different from a typical Oni. Ryo tells him that the Shinja creatures are Oni, who have fully taken control of their human vessel. Once possessed, the person is never able to return to the state of being a human ever again. It is the worst outcome, an outcome that the Shrine Maiden feels deep guilt for not being able to save the vessels. Kakeru tries to maintain his Peter Parker upbeat attitude, but Oka tells him that this isn't gonna play out like a damn comic, and they'll eventually have to account for sacrifices along the way. Inside the perimeters of the Ninja Kingdom, Oka's white team has arrived to uncover the location of the Shinja that is hiding. Yukon meets them and reminds the white team to report to them in case they do spot a Shinja. Ryo explains that the Shinja monsters prefer hiding among the humans to hunt more prey. This means they're basically playing Among Us on a large scale right now. After splitting up, Kakeru hears the voice of a man calling from nearby. Ebara warns him against approaching him, but this hero's got a story to tell. Kakeru arrives to see a man begging for help. While Kakeru is distracted, the Shinja tries to catch him by surprise. Kakeru takes his sweet-ass time suiting up for the fight in order to face the Shinja. Kakeru uses his transmission to signal the location of the Shinja. He is told to keep his distance without engaging the creature. The Shinja wreaks destruction with an insane attack. It basically pulls a Frieza and goes into his final form. Kakeru's trying to run away while Ibara is itching to fight this guy. Ibara persists against Kakeru's will, stopping him in place. Kakeru gives up and decides to throw some hands only to get decked in his face for it. The monster realizes that he's also fighting an Oni and calls Ibara a loser for failing to become a Shinja. He roasts the hell out of Ibara for being so weak that he couldn't even consume a human. The Shinja reveals the nature of the Oni, who act upon humanity's desires and manifest to wreak havoc. Kakeru and Ibara are finally able to land a decisive blow, knocking the man out of his demonic state. Ibara wants to finish the battle right here, but Kakeru's kindness gets in the way. Ibara calls him an actual dumbass because if it wasn't for Ryo just now, Kakeru would have been chomped in half. The monstrous human reclaims its true form. Ryo tells him that there is no chance for the vessel to return. A Shinja attacks Haruko, knocking her away. It makes its defeat happily, thinking everything is going swimmingly well for him. That's when this guy gets headshotted from far away by Isa. The formidable captain of the black team lands a crushing blow on the Shinja, defeating the creature in one move. Kakeru thinks that there's a chance for the human vessel to return, but Benio tells him that the job is unfinished for now. Benio is about to land the finishing blow, while the man tries to take advantage of Kakeru's considerate side and manipulates him again. Kakeru is somehow astonished that he got attacked by this ugly again. Benio lands the finishing blow, getting rid of the Shinja in the only way she knows how. Kakeru is told that this cruel creature actually ate his very own son, leaving him no room for sympathy. Kakeru whines like a little bitch in front of Benio, who knocks him out and orders her team to take him away. The real mission of the black team is revealed to capture Kakeru cooperating with Ibara. Benio receives Ibara's seal, while Oka is unsurprised that things turned out this way. Luka is summoned to their headquarters and called into question for concealing the existence of Ibara. She claims that she wanted to uncover Ibara's nature by simply following the words of her mother. The head of the department emphasizes how Ibara is their family's sworn enemy, and that the legacy of the Myojin family is to eliminate all Oni from their world. Kid and Haruko try to peep into the conversation, but Isa's giant stature stands as an obstacle in their way. Haruko's attempts fail, and Kid even tries to spill juice over Isa. The man exercises extreme patience because normally that would be grounds to slap a bitch to the nearest wall. Ibara was imprisoned within a Yoroi with the efforts of Lady Enju. Ibara's malice was so strong that he killed anyone who wore the armor. The Yoroi armor was thought to have been lost during the World War, but its existence is returning only now. Rio wants to handle the investigations regarding Ibara. However, the director denies that the White Team has any control over Ibara's situation. Luca argues that if Ibara is truly evil, and they make him out to be, then Kakeru shouldn't have survived to begin with. The director finds it hilarious that she thinks of him as a human. In the next scene, Benio has captured Kakeru, deeming him an Oni instead of a human. That is the only logical explanation that suggests he survived after wearing Ibara's Yoroi. Kakeru tells her to keep shit-talking all she likes, but it won't change a thing about his record of surviving Ibara. Benio tells him that she's sealed Ibara's communication with him for the meantime because Ibara is using Kakeru for his own goals. Kakeru thinks otherwise and claims that he's the one borrowing Ibara's power for himself because he's a hero. Benio laughs, probably cringing on the inside with what he said. While Kakeru talks in the world of idealism, Benio thinks of him as a fool who doesn't even know the burden that her little sister is supposed to bear as the Shrine Maiden. Kakeru gets kicked in the face, and rightfully so, for acting like a damn child. Benio remembers the fateful day her sister Uko was chosen as the Shrine Maiden. She thinks that there are sacrifices associated with everything, making their choices difficult. Yukon helps her calm down and takes care of Kakeru. Ryo butts in to act in favor of supporting Uka's belief. He even wishes to cut down Ibara if anything goes south. Issa barges in and requests a challenge against the boy to test his will, a challenge that the director is willing to approve to see what he is capable of. Later, Uka apologizes to Kakeru for dragging him into this mess. She shows him the mark of the Shrine Maiden and even apologizes on her family's behalf for failing Kakeru, who lost his own family as a result of their fuck-up from last time. Kakeru doesn't really mind because he thinks they can always try again with the ritual. Poor guy doesn't know what's coming for him. Before the battle, Kakeru is informed by Ryo about the ritual that failed nearly a decade ago. Luca's mother lost her life, and the only survivor seemed to be Kakeru, making him an anomaly to everyone. Ryo hopes to see Kakeru's best in this fight to come. The stage is set. A Goliath is a pipsqueak with a demon who has anger issues. Kakeru bounces into his Red Ranger suit. They're so busy yapping inside their head that Isa easily punches the shit out of them. The director believes that this is a good opportunity to permanently remove Ibara from the picture. Kakeru and Ibara struggle against the brawler-type behemoth who literally feels nothing from their kick. The brawler slams them into the ground before going all Hulk mode. He calls them weak in 40 different ways before throwing more hands their way. Luca didn't expect Kakeru to face such a difficult challenge. She wants to step in to stop the fight, but it's not of any use. Issa's resolve shines through as he desires to eliminate the Oni from their world. He questions Kakeru's philosophy to peer into his motivation to fight. So far, Kakeru's motivation is to eat punches left and right because he's barely keeping up with this monster. Kakeru charges head straight while yapping about how he wants to become a hero. After landing a clean hit, the rest of them finally realize how important being a hero is to Kakeru. Issa goes all out by pulling out Thor's hammer out of his ass. With this thunderous weapon of war, Kakeru and Ibara are dealt a massive slash. Ibara zones out while Kakeru's friends beg him to continue the fight. Kakeru enters his internal world with Ibara. Surprisingly, it's Ibara who accepts the blame for everything. He hates things for not remembering his true motivation to fight and lacking any resolve. Kakeru goes womp womp miff and tells him that they've only got two ways out of here. The first way is to get eternally trapped, and the second way is to partner up with him. Ibara and Kakeru's official partnership begins. Their cooperative teamwork allows them to tap into a new kind of power. The battle ends in a climactic finish, with both fighters ready to fight more. Yukon stops them as the director has already seen what he wants from this fight. He allows Aoka's team to continue working with Ibara after believing in them. Even Benio is surprised that Kakeru never doubted Ibara for even a second. Later, Kakeru shares a meeting with Ryo's mother, who looks like the ideal MILF anyone would have a crush on. Misuzu tells him about Ryo's past, which involves the death of his father at the hands of an Oni Shinja. This is also why he reacted harshly to Ibara at first. Kakeru makes a pinky promise to Misuzu to keep their conversation a secret. Misuzu hopes Kakeru will look after her son. Uka and her team decided to enjoy the sights of Okazaki. Buka is especially curious about exploring a place where she bought fried chicken with her mother. However, when she arrives at the shop, she learns that it's been shut down because of the owner's retirement. Buka and her group are looking forward to a food festival in Okazaki, with a live hero performance to enjoy. Kippai also joins them on this adventure, wanting to take the big screen as a hero. Suddenly, Ichijoji tells them that they're all eligible to become heroes on stage. This entertaining goofball is the man who wants to make the show happen for the children outside. Ichijoji wants to do whatever it is in his power to help one of the audience members recover from a terrible illness. He thinks that their performance will play a nurturing role. His talk no jutsu is enough to convince Kakeru and the others to join as members of the performance. It was all fun and jokes about the Power Rangers before, but these guys are not even faking it anymore, they're dressing up as them on stage. Hermiko comes out with a goofy koala costume, while Ibara almost mistakes her for a Dan Oni. Mr. Endo thinks that it will take a lot more than that to play such a complicated character. Endo specifically plays the deaf koala and is known as the method actor who imitates the habits of his character for realism. Kei gets excited and tries to hype up the crowd to set the tone for what is to come. They also spot a diehard fan because this dude looks like he's in his 30s or something. Kei tries to call out for their names but embarrasses herself when no one comes out. Buka receives a text from her elder sister and quickly replies with a short message. Benyo, on the other hand, literally jumps to her phone to receive her sister's message only to be left devastated to see what she got. She got more damage dealt by one text message than probably in all of her battles with the Oni combined. In the middle of the performance, Mr. Endo seems to disappear on his own. Ebara tells Oka to take him with her. Kippy's out here wondering where Death Koala is and loses his mind as to what he should do now. The diehard fan is out here seething like he's about to go Yujiro Hanma on them with this mid-tier performance. A crazy-ass Endo is serious about making the performance real and nearly cuts down the power supply. Buka confronts him for his destructive and meaningless thoughts. Kippy's situation is at its worst because he thinks their show is cooked for real now. One man steps up to play the role of the deaf koala in a time of need. Ryo is prepared and enters the stage. Ryo's performance really matches his character. Acting goes a little too far with posing too. While they're out here fighting, Uka's faced against Endo, who is acting under the influence of an Oni. Red Ranger holds down Death Koala while all three of them execute a team combo to defeat the Death Koala. A great danger arises because the monster can never be defeated without its crystal. Kakeru runs off to retrieve the red crystal. A crazy Endo violently attacks Oka when Ebara saves her. Endo is still under the influence of the Oni, who is making him do its bidding. Buka tries to knock some sense into Endo by using her own talk no jutsu. The blonde bitch remembers his true purpose, which is to entertain children and protect their smiles. Endo's avid desire for realism is tarnished with the help of Oka. Kakeru also arrives at the scene to fetch the huge-ass red crystal. Endo gives Kakeru the crystal who returns to the battlefield. Red Ranger finally crushes the red crystal, defeating the monster once and for all and earning the applause of the children. Buka gains an appreciation for Ibara, who helped her spend a wonderful day together filled with good memories. After the show, the diehard creep fan comes to voice his geeky nerdy review on the subject. All of them are shocked because they were basically trying to earn the appreciation of a creep all this time. Ichijojo wishes to work with them in the future, an offer that even someone like Ryo isn't willing to turn down. Benio arrives at the scene of the crime in one of the recent incidents to discover a horrifying message written on the wall. The Shrine Maiden is next on the list of the serial-killing mad monster. The story explores Ryo's tragic past. His father was attacked by a Shinja and in his final moments gave his son a gift before departing from this world. That day, Ryo swore to carry on the will of the Hattori family to protect the people he treasures most in the world. Ryo meets his mother, who asks if Oka and the others are fine. It's been 5 years since the boy lost his father. Ryo is angered because the monster who killed his father is still lurking out in the open while hiding in a human disguise. He loses his sense of duty when Misuzu reminds the boy to stay on his path. Benio calls him to ask if Uka is currently unable to be reached by phone. Ryo loses his shit concerned for the Shrine Maiden's well-being. Turns out Oka's phone just died while she was having fun with Kippy and Kakeru. Kippy points out the existence of crystal gems that have started popping all over the place. Kippy believes it's time for another theory, an alien invasion theory. Nobody takes his dumbass seriously, while Oka suddenly collapses out of nowhere. Kakeru takes her to a park and wonders what happened. Ebara suddenly warns Kakeru to stay cautious as a Shinja is lurking nearby. Kakeru prepares for battle, not knowing that it's Benio who comes to see her sister. Kakeru tells Benio about Oka's flailing health. Benio drops the bombshell and says that Uka is at risk of being assassinated by a powerful Shinja. Benio summons Ryo and Yukon to protect Uko with the remaining members of the white team. Ryo wants to tag along on the mission with Benio, but she denies him the right to hunt the creature even if it involves the death of his father. Benio advises him not to lose sight of his true objective. On the car ride, Kakeru explains that Oka fell ill all of a sudden, leaving him with few options. Yukon reveals the nature of the threat they're dealing with. Apparently, the Shinja has a taste for only eating women, and its target is now the Shrine Maiden of all people. Kakeru's dumbass fails to read the energy of the room and stupidly makes everything worse by prying into Ryo's past at the worst time. Ibara even makes fun of the geek for wussing out when it is most crucial for him to act. Ryo lashes out and explodes on Kakeru and Ibara. Yukon plays the chill uncle and enjoys their conversation. Issa and Benio head over to the location where they believe the Shinja's hiding. Meanwhile, they decided to isolate Aoka with as few people as possible to ensure a sneak attack doesn't surprise them out of nowhere. Ryo's mother also shows up to join the party. Issa and Benio break their way inside as if the IRS were pulling up to collect their tax money. Instead of a Shinja, all they found is a glowing red crystal surrounded by dozens of Oni. Benio and Issa clean sweep the monsters in seconds. Benio realizes that she's made a major mistake since they've been baited by the Shinja to come to this location. This means the real Shinja is already with Oka and the others. Yukon enters the party when suddenly they sense another realm breaking through. The Oni creatures slip inside their dimension, but it's no worry for the Power Rangers who have an entire squad to defeat them. While they're beating the monsters outside, Ryo is called by his mother for a strange reason. Misuzu draws near Ryo before impaling him with a deadly attack, betraying her own supposed son. Misuzu is revealed to be a Shinja all along who waited for many years for this moment. It is revealed that Ryo's true mother had already died alongside his father on that fateful day. The Shinja has been using his mother's appearance to fool Ryo, giving him worse treatment than Kenjaku did with Itadori. The lore is all fucked up for Ryo, who doesn't know what is right from wrong. He succumbs to the control of the Oni. Kakeru steps inside to save Ryo, but it's already too late since he's also influenced by the Oni. The Shinja tells her loving son to kill Kakeru. Kakeru tries to help him snap into his senses while the rest of his team tries to defeat the Shinja. Ryo even manages to slash Kakeru, and yet his voice of reason pierces through to help Ryo regain his senses. Ryo faces an immense internal breakdown, being fooled by everyone around him. He has nearly succumbed to malice when Kakeru's voice pulls him through. Ryo decides to create something new out of himself by killing the old. In an act of destruction, a brand new Ryo Hattori is born. Ryo faces off with Shinja and even overwhelms her. He no longer feels held by his feelings and effortlessly defeats the Shinja. Ryo claims that while all of those memories he shared with his mother may have been for naught, he still thinks of them as worthwhile. He feels content with his life and is glad to have avenged his parents at last. Kakeru and Ryo share a touching conversation following his victory over the Shinja. Ryo apologizes to Kakeru and vows to make other people experience easier lives. Kate and Haruko didn't get injured much. Yukon asks if they're both alright and seems to give an ominous feeling like he's on that secret villain act. Kakeru is suddenly attacked by a godly Shinja who one-shots the fuck out of him and even severs his connection with Ibara. In the past, a group of assassins were on a mission to kill the Shrine Maiden when one man called Enju Myojin stood before them, fearless in his path. Enju managed to defeat this man, breaking apart his mask. Kakeru wakes up from his nightmare once more while Ryo informs him that the entire base has been swallowed by the Nether Realm. Ryo and the others are out here planning to subdue the threat. Kakeru wants to join but suddenly remembers he got nothing on him to join with. He is tasked to protect Oka as best as he can for the meantime. Oka and Kakeru are suddenly attacked by an Oni. Kakeru begs Ibara to wake up but doesn't receive any response. Benyo saves their lives at the last minute and takes them to a safe location. She informs the director about the Oni's deliberate plan to eradicate Oka. The director asks about Ibara, who is nowhere to be found. Yukon thinks that it won't cause them any trouble in their operations, even with his disappearance. The director reveals that the Shikizakura trees are soon to bloom into place. The director thinks that it's time for them to perform the necessary ritual. He wants Oka to complete the ritual in a single day, something that Benio considers to be unreasonable. The director thinks that they can't risk Oka falling to ruin. Benio meets up with the white team and informs them about the current state of their war with the Oni. Benio takes control of the Oka group for the time being. She wasn't ready to take Haruko's useless ass, but Yukon invited her to his side. Benio requests Oka for a conversation in private. She is told the circumstances that require Oka to conduct the ritual ceremony sooner. Benio feels incredibly upset, but Oka isn't the least bit afraid because she's been ready for a long time. Keith is especially annoyed and wants to help save Oka from being sacrificed to the ritual. Benny was about to recontinue her chain-smoking career, but Yukon tells her it's best not to. He tells her not to focus on the irrelevant thoughts as their duty is far more important. Kakeru experiences another dream where he discovers Ibara showing up to confront and defeat Enju Myojin. The ugly face literally gets decimated in a single attack. Enju pulls a Majin Buu and eats him like candy. As a result of their souls conjoined together in one body, Ibara felt what Enju felt. Kakeru wakes up from his nap and discovers Oka dawdling around. She has actually snuck out on her own after leaving the YouTube apology letter to her sister. Shady guy Yukon tells Haruko that there is something she should know about before the ritual actually begins. At the museum, Yukon explains that his ancestors collected many documents on the Oni. Yukon reveals that the Oni aren't good or evil by nature. They simply manifest in their world to fulfill the carnal desires of human beings. Haruko doesn't know what he's yapping so much about or how it even concerns her. Yukon whispers in her ear, "Daddy's home." He tells her that they're both incapable of becoming heroes. Spending his time with Oka, Kakeru sees an advertisement of the cherry blossom trees and finds himself traveling in his memories again. This time, he sees Ibara actively controlling the body of Enju to fulfill his desires in a meaningful way. Kakeru sees an image of Oka's mother and learns of the events that happened on that fateful day. Ibara even forced Enju to stop his own daughter from sacrificing her life. Finally, the Shrine Maiden decides to confess her big secret concerning the Shikizakura ritual. Buka tells him about the necessary sacrifice, but Kakeru already knows that through his visions. Kakeru is shocked to learn that the ritual is tomorrow. Buka wants to spend her final day sharing good memories with him. On the train, Buka tells Kakeru that she wants to protect the lives of as many people as she possibly can. Benyo has called her little sister a million times, but she refuses to respond to her. They spend some time at the beach before booking a hotel room to stay the night. They're given a room to stay, while Oka is surprised that Kakeru gets along with people well. She wonders if Kakeru will grow up to become a fine hero. Buka's face turns to sorrow as she won't be there to see him accomplishing his dreams. Buka's happy to have this experience with Kakeru. She had many dreams like falling in love and getting married, but Oka knows that they'll never be accomplished by her. Kakeru tries to explore the idea of helping Oka with a future filled with amazing experiences. With heavy heart, the Shrine Maiden turns him down because of the weight of the responsibility. She knows that it's her destiny to get turned to dust for the sake of others. She thinks that her life is destined to end because of her mark as a Shrine Maiden. She pleads with Kakeru to keep on living for his own self. Kakeru tells her that he will always remember Oka in his memories and instead will discover his own way to save her life. Yukon tells Haruko that Benio wants to save the world, but he's unsure if the world needs any more saving at this point. In short, Yukon tries to recruit Haruko to his side and thinks that she has someone more important to her than even the world itself. This particular someone is Cade, who gets overwhelmed by the Oni until Haruko is there to stop them. Haruko's fears manifest as she places Cade's life even above her own. Haruko refuses Yukon's treacherous offer to team up, prompting a fight. Yukon washes her with a single attack and thinks that he should try his luck with Cade next. Kakeru sees another dream where he discovers that Enju tried protecting the Shrine Maiden, who had come to her decision to sacrifice her life for the ritual. A group of unknown warriors stood as an obstacle to the completion of the ritual. Their leader didn't want to lose the power of the Oni, since it would make Japan lose an important weapon of war. The Shrine Maiden refuses the offer and initiates the ritual process. Enju tries to protect his daughter, while Ibara thinks that he's finally acting like a father for once. Enju gets no diff by their leader, forcing his daughter to run from her enemies. At the time of Enju's death, Ibara's soul received his final desire and was resurrected in his body. Kakeru wakes up from his dream to find Oka still asleep. Benyo meets him at the beach, but Kakeru is hellbent on keeping Oka from being sacrificed. Benyo tells him that the Nether Realm poses a global threat to their world and that it must be stopped. She fully allows Kakeru to act against the interests of the sacred ritual, making him a true enemy in their eyes. Kakeru doesn't mind getting used to the Oni allegations anymore. Kakeru manages to throw her away in his brand new white suit. This suit is a testament to his will and resolve to protect Oka. Benyo is impressed that he was able to manifest some of his own powers instead of relying on Ibara. Even after gassing him up so much, Kakeru gets one kick and goes down like the biggest disappointment ever. Benyo recalls the incident from 8 years ago, claiming how everything proceeded smoothly until her mother couldn't complete the ritual while saving one boy. She pins the blame of their struggles on Kakeru. Kakeru tells her that he found his purpose after meeting Oka. He charges with the typical anime hero motivation, and you'd expect him to win, but this guy is literal dog shit and takes his 14th L of the series. Benyo was infuriated not because of Kakeru's words, but because his will couldn't keep up with her or defeat her. She wanted someone to disprove her methods through their own strength so that Uka could have greater protection than even her. Luka has witnessed this entire confrontation take place from the side. Yukon tells her that it's time for her to leave. Kakeru enjoys his 4th episode on the local TV in his head. Enju, who is now Ibara, faces the masked opponent, cutting him down. The man's face is identical to Yukon, adding even greater complexity to the story. After defeating the masked samurai, Ibara expected to receive his thanks from the Shrine Maiden. But instead, all he got was that the Oni shouldn't exist in this world, and that she's still required to complete the ritual. The Shrine Maiden tried to sacrifice her life when Ibara dragged her away and chose to act on behalf of Enju's deepest desires. Ibara left her with a good luck charm before getting sealed. The following day, Kakeru wakes up in his room to discover Oka's note. After leaving the hotel, Kakeru finds Kippy on his bike cruising around. He's glad to have him here. Kippy doesn't mind intruding on Kakeru's privacy and wants him to open up when he's ready. Kakeru thinks that his brother is a true Sigma because of the way he treats him. Watching the news, he finds Ryo desperately alerting the people to stay clear of the stones. The stones are theorized to be a disruption between the two worlds. Kakeru faces a slump because he knows that everything is about to come to an end with Oka's ritual to eradicate all Onai. A helpless and worried Kakeru tells Kippy that Oka will be used as a sacrifice. Kakeru thinks of himself as a total failure. Kippy reflects on the memories of the time he was never acknowledged by others until he met Kakeru. In a way, Kakeru saved his life. Kippy calls him a true hero. He tells Kakeru to be more confident and follow what his heart is saying. Knowing that he wishes to see Oka a final time, Kakeru and Kippy ride away to find her at the shrine. Meanwhile, the Shrine Maiden is prepared to recreate the same ritual from 8 years ago that nearly brought the destruction of the world. Uka expresses her gratitude for being able to share the experience of the Blossom Leaves with her sister. Even though Benyo doesn't want her sister to become the sacrifice, she knows that it is a necessary choice to ensure the peace of the world. Kippy and Kakeru's dumbass ends up crashing into the Nether Realm. Kakeru runs off to pursue Oka, who is currently weaving the gestures required to uphold the ritual. She remembers the life she's led so far, justifying it as an experience that is enough for someone like her. The Shrine Maiden's powers influence the gate to open. They'd only have unleashed their wrath in the real world. Ryo and the others try to stop them, but they're still in too great a number. Haruko and Yukon are considered the last line of defense in this mission despite their contradictory roles. Yukon debated with Haruko about the nature of Oni and even told her about the existence of an Oni that enslaves and absorbs other Oni. This monster is called the Shuten. Kakeru gets his shit tossed left and right by normal Oni. Ryo comes to save him while Kid is surprised that Kakeru has manifested his power suit. Kakeru tells them that he can sense Ibara's while trying to communicate with him as if to convey a message to him. Kakeru reveals that he wants to go meet Oka before the end of the ritual because he won't allow her to die. Kid considers the sacrifice a cruel joke. Ryo, Kid, and Isa rest their hopes upon Kakeru's shoulders. Oka's ritual is underway. Her powers allow for the purge of many Oni from all over the world. Benyo takes note of this and realizes that Uka is sending the creatures to the Nether Realm, insinuating her forthcoming demise. Problem child Kakeru comes to annoy Benyo for the 3rd time. He starts yapping again, and in typical Benyo fashion, she tries to kill him for it. The Shrine Maiden's ritual is underway, but the director suddenly acts suspiciously like hell. Yukon betrays the director, who pulls a UNO reverse on his ass and literally betrays him instead. Yukon's family swore an oath to serve the family of the Shrine Maiden, but Shuten's powers massively outscale even someone like him. Shuten claims that he's enslaved an infinite amount of Oni, so they have no chance of defeating him. Haruko intervenes in the battle and is about to blast Shuten to smithereens but refuses to involve Yukon in her line of fire. Her stupid hesitance costs Yukon his one and only chance to defeat the threat. Haruko contests her true fears, allowing Shuten the chance to learn that she also has an Oni possessing her. Shuten tries to control the Oni, but Haruko evolves and springs forth as a new person after accepting her true desires. Instead of foolishly attacking him, she chooses to save Yukon instead and escapes. Yukon doesn't understand why the girl didn't just follow instructions and shoot even after his manipulation. Haruko tells him that she did it all for the sake of her own self. She wanted to save people no matter the cost. The director, who is revealed to be the main villain all along, had planned this outcome so that he could absorb the Oni and become a force of destruction. Having absorbed the Oni, a new calamity of chaos emerges. Shuten properly introduces himself as the entity who devours everything. The Shrine Maiden faces disbelief as her own father turns out to be the culprit for using her family's name in order to advance his own schemes. Shuten thanks Oka's help for allowing him the chance to accomplish his goals. He tries to squash her like a cockroach, but Kakeru, the mosquito, is faster and staves the damsel in distress. Kakeru deploys his level 1 Riz, wanting to save Oka from being sacrificed. It does very little to help him when Shuten tries to crush Kakeru underneath the ground. Kakeru tries to reach out for Ibara's help, only to discover the horror of Ibara's being devoured by Shuten. Shuten enjoys torturing Kakeru and raises him into the ground. Benio joins the fight and tries to attack, but gets taken down as well. Uka remains rigid, vowing to sever the connections of the Oni from the human world, even at the cost of her life. Shuten gives his big bad villain monologue, denouncing himself as the Nether Realm. He unleashes the wrath of the Oni upon the world. Vikan realizes that the tragedy of 8 years ago is going to be repeated once again. Vikan thinks they've lost the war, but Haruko is insistent on fighting this battle until the very end. She doesn't want to abandon her hope in Oka or Kakeru. Benio is at a loss until all of them fully manifest to face the Demon Lord. Kakeru experiences an illusory dream where he gets to meet his parents, a world without any pain. A world where his desires come true. Ibara tries to knock some sense into him, but Kakeru wants to meet his parents and even abandons Ibara for it. As for the Shrine Maiden, she's being comforted by herself to never shoulder the responsibility that she didn't even choose for herself. It is an ideal ending for a girl who wants to cultivate more experiences. Even in these ideal worlds, Kakeru hears the battle going on outside and how his friends are struggling against Shuten to reach him. Benio blocks a powerful beam strike and returns double the damage to Shuten. Her attempts to imprison him are not powerful enough. All of Uka's friends try calling out for her. Uka, in her dream, acknowledges that she's dealing with an Oni who could take away the responsibility from her shoulders. But this isn't the kind of reality she wants, so Uka rejects Shuten's Tsukuyomi as Jetsu. Kakeru does the same by rejecting his parents for a duty in the real world. Both the Shrine Maiden and Kakeru have broken free of Shuten's control. Benio and the others are persistent in fighting him. Kakeru takes Ibara and prepares for the battle ahead. The Shrine Maiden is happy that she finally got to meet someone who cherishes her life more than she values it herself. They reunite with Oka's mother, who sends both of them back. Shuten is shocked as to how they returned. Kakeru reveals that the others reach out for them. Kakeru takes the lead of the battle. Shuten doesn't care that they escape and releases a gigantic beam to eradicate them all. However, Uka had already formed a protective barrier that didn't even break and endured the attack. The rest of the world cheers in support for their heroes. Shuten can't comprehend how Kakeru and Oka decided to ditch the concept of an ideal world all for the sake of living in a real one. An epic action sequence begins with each character landing a conclusive hit based on their personal motivations. Shuten is literally getting Jujutsu Kaisen jumped all Sukuna style here. Kakeru lands a basic finisher, while the Shrine Maiden deals the final blow to eradicate and seal Shuten. Shuten isn't fully defeated and flees the area while heavily injured. Kakeru tries to chase after him, but unfortunately, he can't catch him. Both Kive and Haruko thrust him into the air, allowing Kakeru to get to the other side of the portal. All of their hopes now rest on Kakeru's hands. A final battle between Ibara and Shuten begins. Shuten claims that he has the power of Oni by his side, allowing him to grant the wishes of others. Shuten tells him that he will grant any wish that Ibara desires. Ibara at first tries to reach out for his hand, only to deal a clean blow right through him, as his only desire is to crush Shuten. With Shuten defeated, the Oni are wiped clean from Earth. Their one and only task is to seal the gate of the Nether Realm so that the Oni can never invade again. Uka learns that the gate is in the process of closing. She feels devastated when she realizes that Kakeru is the one who is closing the gate in her place, sacrificing his own freedom. Meanwhile, Kakeru and Ibara have nearly finished closing the gate. Ibara tells him to return to the other side, but Kakeru doesn't want to abandon him. Ibara insists on his return, but Kakeru feels sad because he's only been using Ibara's power without offering him anything in return. Ibara reminds him that Kakeru chose power at the beginning instead of salvation. Through Kakeru, Ibara learned how to actualize his own path and gain motivation. Ibara tells him that he's also got his own friends waiting for him in the Nether Realm, and that he wants to be Kakeru's hero instead. The two of them treasure their partnership as it comes to an end. In his final moments, Ibara requests Kakeru never to forget him on the other side. Kakeru returns to Oka at last. The maiden is happy to receive him in kind. 2 years after the events of this story, Kakeru's friends have all retired from their jobs since the Oni no longer pose a threat to this world. Kakeru's Rizology classes also work as his ship with Uka actually sailed in the end, bringing a happy ending to their story.